So I want to start this week again like last week, and I'm really serious about this. So this is not just a general question. Who of you really want your life to count? Huh? Really want it to matter? Wanneer net 'n suurstof die wees nie. Don't just want to be here and have kids and grow old and die. Want to make a real impact. Make a real impact, not just in this life, but even in eternity. Okay, nou moet julle saam met my werk. Think with me. Do you believe that your life can have an impact for eternity? It's not just to be famous or do something awesome in this life. To live a life of significance, to have impact. And this is what church is all about. This is what the elders are about, to help you to do that, to help you to live that. My heart is to one day present you all before the Lord and say, look at these people, look at the impact of their lives. So that's what we share on. And that's God's heart for you as well. God's heart for me and for you is that we have an internal impact with our lives. He calls it to be fruitful. And last week we saw that it's God's absolute heart and desire for us to bear fruit after our own kind. Meaning other people. Because that's all that's going to last for eternity. My impact in eternity is going to be the people I help, the people I influenced to stand before the Lord one day. That's it. It's that simple. And I shared a little while ago being unbalanced. I'm unbalanced about that. It's all that really matters. Because it's all that's really going to count. So we saw that the Lord is really his heart for us to be fruitful, and he's real serious about fruit. We went through lots of scriptures, what happens if we're not fruitful. And then last week we also shared what often happens in Christian society with all of us. We are often more concerned about health than fruit. What do I look like? Do I do all the right things? And we had the story last week of Jesus going to the fig tree looking for fruit. It was healthy, it had all kinds of leaves and everything, but it had no fruit. So health is important. We enjoy health. We need to be healthy to bear fruit, but I think in Christian circles we have a overemphasis on health. Or maybe not an overemphasis on that. Maybe a lack of emphasis on fruit. And that's the mind shift we have to make. And then we said there's a couple of reasons why we don't bear fruit. The first thing we said is that often we think it's somebody else's responsibility. It's the more outgoing people, it's the more evangelistic people, it's the more churchy people, it's the more holy people, it's somebody else that have to do it. And last week we said, no, it's everybody's responsible. Everybody needs to bear fruit. For all of us. If you want to make an impact in eternity. If you're right to live in here and die and be compost and that's it. Okay. But I know you're not like that. And then we said the second reason why often we're not bearing fruit is because of the enemy and his schemes and his lies and his deceits. What we fall for. Hook, line, and sinker. He's luring us into this thing of just making a living rather than making a difference. It's a mentality, something that we buy into sometimes. We tricked into it. We conned into the idea of being successful rather than significant. And we deceived into living or working for a paycheck rather than to make a difference. It is a scheme, and we fall for that. Live rather for a paycheck than a purpose. Just get through the month, get through the year. And that leads us to living over busy lives. Being busy with all kinds of things, and at the end we're going to lack bearing fruit. We looked last week as well at our occupations, our jobs, our giftings, our skills, things that the Lord gave us, and that it's beautiful. Work was the first commandment. Before anything else, it was to work. And then if I work for the Lord and His interest like it used to be in the garden, it's a joy and it's co-laboring. But then after the fall, we started working for our own interest. And working for my own interest, it's toil, it's hard to work. And that God wants to restore that. He wants to use your occupation, your gifting, your leisure, your whatever, to bear fruit. That is your field where you can bear fruit. So the enemy is lying consistently. He's the father of all lies. So his first thing is he will try you not to accept the Lord. That will be his first thing. But then if he can't prevent you doing that, he will lie and deceive, lure you into all of these deceptions so that you don't bear fruit. He will even be okay with you being healthy as long as you don't bear fruit. And today I want to highlight one of his other lies he's got, one of his favorite lies. He tells us often, Donnie, Robert, Neil, who you might be, you don't have what it takes to bear fruit. You're not good enough. And we fall for that, unfortunately, also, hook, line, and sinker. You don't have what it takes. Donnie, who do you think you are that you can make an impact and difference in eternity? Who do you think you are? And then it's like, okay, yeah, sorry, yeah, okay. But praise the Lord for today. We're going to reveal the truth. We had lots of words about that also earlier on. And we're no longer going to fall for that. So, I just have 2 scriptures today. Isn't that a miracle? Huh? 2 scriptures and they're short. Okay, it's not going to be up there. Matthew 21:33, that's what we shared last week as well. It was here another parable. There was a master of a house who planted a vineyard and put a fence around it and dug a wine press in it and built a tower and leased it to tenants, and he went into another country. So this is what the Lord did. He invested in this vineyard. He bought the land, he planted the vineyard, he put a fence around it, dug the wine press, built a tower, put tenants over it. And then he went away, and then he came back and he was looking for fruit. And this parable is obviously about our lives, what he invested in us. And then he's gone for a while now, and he's coming back soon. Yes, dit was net so goeie plek om Selmy. He's coming back soon, and then he's going to look for fruit. But the moral of the story, what I want to highlight this morning, is that this vineyard had everything it needed to produce. God made sure of that. So if he's calling me and you to be fruitful, guess what? He's invested in you, he placed in you everything you need to be fruitful. I'm very confident that I can make an impact in eternity. That I can bear fruit. Not because I'm amazing, but because he invested, he gave me everything I needed to do that. It's just for me to discover it, utilize it, and walk in it. It's as simple as that. So why would I keep on falling for the lie that I'm not good enough? Why would I keep on falling for the lie I don't have what it takes? Okay, cool. So this lies come in various forms, various approaches to the same lie. And the first one of that is, if I just had more. If I just had more time, if I just had more money, if I was just a little bit younger, maybe, had a little bit more energy, if I was actually a little bit older, having a little bit more wisdom, but I need something else. It's a lie. You have what it takes. Some of it might be in seed form. Some of it needs to be developed. But I have it. It's not lack of it. He's not unfair. He won't expect me to bear fruit and then don't give me the tools and the things to bear fruit. He gave us everything we need. There's so many biblical examples of this. The one I want to highlight this morning is the one about Nehemiah. What did Nehemiah do before he rebuilt the wall? Do you know the story about Nehemiah going to rebuild the wall? What did he do? He was a cupbearer to the king. So, what does that look like? Does it look like a builder, a wall builder, and a warrior? Do you think he had calluses on his hands? Do you think he had a fancy hat like Dan, like a real construction outdoorsy man? Nehemiah was a softie. He wasn't even a proper chef. He didn't even make the food. He just the cupbearer, sipped the king's wine and said, okay. Did he have what it takes to build the wall? For sure. It took him 52 days to rebuild the wall with the people, which took other people 75 years, which they couldn't do. But if you looked at Nehemiah, it's like, no way he can do that. We look for a real tough guy. So what area in your life are you looking at and you say, now, the Lord is looking for a tough guy in that area and I'm a softie in that area. But he called you to bear fruit. So it was placed in Nehemiah. He could do that. Nehemiah didn't focus on what he didn't have. He didn't have the hat. He didn't have the calluses on his hand. He didn't have the know-how. But he had favor with the king. The one thing he had, he used that. And I want to invite you guys, I want to encourage you guys this morning. Stop looking at what you don't have. Stop looking, I'm not like this, I'm not like that. Look what's in your hand. Look what I've invested in you. The fence has been built, the wine press has been dug, tower has been set up. You've got what it takes to bear fruit, to make a real impact in eternity. Julle glo my nie. Put your finger in your chest. And say, I got what it takes to make an impact in eternity. Keep it there. You must believe this. I got what it takes to bear fruit. You believe that? Awesome. So this the same line, second way he comes with this lie is he makes us compare. He makes us look around to other people. And then he makes us compare usually in the areas where we don't do well. He makes me compare in the area where I've got one talent. And then he makes me look at the guy that got 5. And then I disqualify myself. I'm not going to bear fruit. I can't bear fruit because I'm not like. And then I go sit in the corner and cry. Or just ignore it. So if you look at Shane, I'm going to use my highly talented and skillful friend. If it comes to worship, he's got 5. If it comes to worship, I've got -1. -5. But I'm not going to sit in a corner and cry and say, I'm not going to sing today. I'm not going to worship my heart out because I've only got one. What am I going to do? Ek gaan laat waai met my een. Ek laat waai met my een. Sorry to the people close proximity to me, but that's the way it is. And it makes sense in this context. But in other areas of life, we compare with one another, and often I look at my one and say, I'm not going to use it because I only have one. I'm not so good at X, Y, Z. That's why I'm not going to do it. The thing is, you're going to be accountable for your one. I'm going to be accountable for my one. Just as I'm going to be held accountable for the 5. And I'm going to be equally rewarded for being faithful in the one, the thing I'm not doing so well in, as I'm not going to reward it in the thing I'm doing well in. So often we look at the areas in our lives where we need to bear fruit, where God invested potential in us. We compare it to other people and say, okay, I've got 1, that person got 5, and that's why I'm going to take my 1 and put it underneath a rock. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to wait for that person to use his 5. Well, we need to use it. If all of the one talented people in terms of reaching out to people, in terms of connecting with people, in terms of evangelizing and discipling people, if all the one talented people will stand up and start using that one, more people will come into the kingdom than a Reinhard Bonnke or whoever else can bring into the kingdom. It's the one talented people hiding their talent that's preventing the great harvest from coming in. I'm not so good at that. I'm going to hide it. I don't know how long I must make the story. Let me tell you my comparison story. I'm going to give you the long version. Some of you know it, some of you don't. So many, many years ago, one morning, I was doing my quiet time, I was journaling. It was when there was still a guy leading the church called Len Deisel, long before Johannes Tini. And in that journal, the Lord told me, Donnie, one day you're going to lead the congregation. And in that journal, I wrote, what about Len, Lord? I was nowhere close to leading a congregation. It was just like one of those mantles, one of those things from the past. And for some reason, that morning, I journaled on a piece of paper, not in my journal. And I forgot about it, totally. I had no idea. So when Len left, the people from the network came to see me. Would I lead the congregation? And I didn't know about this piece of paper or this word. I really forgot about it. But I compared myself to other pastors. And I said, I'm not the pastor type. This church needs a proper pastor. I don't have what it takes. Although the Lord already confirmed that. So I totally forgot about this and I said, no, somebody else must lead. And then, as the Lord's so faithful, He raised up Johannes Tini, and you know them, and they led the congregation for a long while. And after Johannes Tini was leading the congregation, one day I went through a couple of books, and this piece of paper fell out, and I read it. And it's like, oh my goodness. He told me, this is what you should do. And I totally forgot about it. And immediately I repented and said, Lord, I'm so sorry. But thank you for your honesty. And we just went on. And then there came a time when Johan and Stini said they want to finish up with the congregation. They helped me help with datums. Was it 2019, 2018? I don't know. Maybe another 2 years and then they're going to finish up. And that whole thing dragged out. The difference between the previous time I forgot about this piece of paper. Second time, I knew about this piece of paper. I knew what the Lord was telling me. And I didn't respond. Why? Because I compared myself. I fell for this lie. I said, I'm not good enough. I'm not like Johan. Fred's not like Stini. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. I can't do it like they do it. I can't do it. And for a long time, I knew I had to lead. I knew there was a mantle to pick up. I knew there was something to do. I know there was an impact I have to make. But I didn't do it. Why? Because I was stupid enough to fall for the lie to compare. I don't need to be like Johan. I must just use what God gave me. It's that simple. I need to worship. I can worship with all of my heart. I don't have to sound like Shane. I wish I can. And still, I wish there's lots of things I can do like Johan. But that's not the point. Do I use what I have in my hand? Do I believe that there's enough in me to do what He called me to do? The question this morning is for all of us. There's something that the Lord gave you. Something is calling you into. An area of influence, either your work or a place of a hobby or school or something. There's a place He's calling you to bear fruit, where He invested a lot in you, and where we're not using it. We're putting that one talent under a rock because we look at people around us with 5. Please don't be like Donnie. Learn from my mistake. I've repented of that often. I said, yes, Lord, things could have looked much different. I could have looked much different if I just didn't compare. He invested a lot of us in each of us, and He's coming back soon. And He's coming back. He's looking for fruit. He's coming. What did you do with that? So the question this morning, I want to ask you, what do you believe about yourself? Because I believe the lie about myself. And you will only live out and act out what you believe about yourself. Nothing more, nothing less. So what do I believe about myself? So one question. How accurate is that belief about myself? Yo. And the other scary thing is how used have I become about that lie? Hoe gewoond het ek geraak om wie ek is, of wie ek dink ek is? I just got used to the way I am. My question this morning is, who's agreeing with that thought? Heaven or hell? That's a guideline. If you wonder where that thought is from. That thing you believe about yourself, that area where you disqualify yourself, who would cheer that on? Who will say, yes, that's true? Heaven or hell? If it's heaven, there's a place of repentance and turning, getting in line. But mostly, it's hell cheering it on. And it's for us this morning to say, okay, I see that lie. I'm not going to believe that any longer. You see, the spies that went in to spy out the promised land, they were not like Nehemiah. They look at themselves differently. They say, we are like grasshoppers in their eyes. Who told them they were grasshoppers? They themselves. They believed the lie. Many of us sitting here this morning, in many areas, you think you are a grasshopper in your own eyes. I don't have what it takes. If I were only like so-and-so. If I only had more of this. It's all lies. Don't see yourself small. Don't see yourself like a grasshopper in somebody else's eyes. And the reason why we struggle with that is we've been so conditioned in being healthy, just having leaves. Oh, I'm just so humble. I don't want to say something or believe something about myself because then I'm prideful. No. Shane shared about humility a while back, was so good. If it's all about me, what I have, what I don't have, it's false humility. It's still about me. Being humble is not to think less of yourself, it's just to think about yourself less. Not so preoccupied with what I have, what I don't have. Oh, I'm not like this. It's not humility. It's still pride. It's still self-focused. It's still about what I can and what I can't. Yeah, we carry so much more. And the thing is, if I can see that, and I can see it's not about me, it's not about my life, it's not about my weakness, it's not about my strength. It's about Him investing something in me, looking for a return. If I can just see that, and I can see that God is the one that gets honor when there's much fruit. We glorify Him by bearing much fruit. He plays potential in us, and it differs from one another. But I have to live that out. I have to discover that. Think about friends, family, maybe even famous people, people you know with a lot of potential, and you see them not utilizing that. Do you know somebody like that? Isn't it the saddest thing? I know a couple of friends from school and a couple of friends from university. They had so much potential, but they squandered it all. It's the saddest thing ever. And I don't want to be like that. I don't want what God invested me to go to waste. We need to think differently about ourselves. How used have you become? How well have you become acquainted with what you think about yourself? Donnie, you don't know what type of person I am. My personality. Says who? I've always been like this or like that. Says who? And even maybe some of those things might be true, but are you okay staying like that? Are you okay with that personality profile? Are you okay with that? I'm just like this. I've always used to be like this. We so easily fall into a rut. Somebody's going to translate for the Americans, sorry. Die enigste verskil tussen die groef en die graf is die diepte. Hoe sê mens dit in Engels? Martin, iemand help. Yeah, but it doesn't translate well. Yeah, for the lack of the only difference between the groove and the grave is how deep it is. I've always used to be like this. I'm not like this. I'm not like that. It's a groove. It's a groove. Does the Bible say we go from one degree of glory to the next? Does the Bible say I'm a new creation? Does the Bible say that we don't see one another according to the flesh anymore, but according to the Spirit? I hope, my desire, you must be the judge. Is Donnie any different from last month, last year? Is there growth? Am I changing? That's how we have to look at one another. So today is more about me looking at myself, but sometimes we look at one another and we judge one another according to the flesh. Ja, Etienne was nog maar altyd so gewees. Sê so. Isn't that the whole gospel redemption? Something new, something growing from one degree of glory to the next? I think we struggle to see it in other people because we struggle to see it in ourselves. Because I'm just used to being like, I think of other people like it as well. Well, there's actually a place where I need to grow and bear fruit. And the amazing thing, what is the reward for bearing fruit, according to John 15? Pruning. So that I can bear more fruit, so that He can be glorified. But what does pruning look like? It's getting out of my comfort zone. It's doing something different. It's being to shaped and be formed. That's what pruning is to shape and to form you in a certain pattern. It's to willingly submit to that and say, yes, Lord, I want to make internal impact. I'm going to bear fruit. Keep on pruning me. Keep on taking me out of my comfort zone. Keep on working on me. Keep on changing me. So that the potential that's within can come out. So that there can be lots of fruit. So that I can have an impact in eternity. So that you can be glorified. What does it mean to go from glory to glory? It's a nice Christian verse, but what does it look like? So I'm in that process, where the Lord's pruning me and shaping me and stirring me in my heart to bear more fruit. I'm in a process of discovering more potential in myself than I thought I had. I'm on my way with that. I'm a long way from where I need to be. Yes, but I'm a long way from where I was 6 months ago. I want to invite you on this journey. Grow. See the difference. Don't just believe about yourself what everybody said about you. Don't believe what you said about yourself. For so long I've been so stupid in parroting the enemy's lie. Ag Dani, ek's maar net taak-georiënteerd. I'm just task-oriented. I'm just Dani. I can't connect with people. Says who? Says who? Again, referring to Shane. In relating with people, connecting with people, he's got 5 talents. I've got 1. Says who? And even when I've got 1, I'm going to work with my 1. I'm going to work with that. I'm not going to allow that to be disqualification. I'm not satisfied of just having nice leaves, having a good quiet time and praying regularly and reading my Bible, and that's all good. I'm all for that. But I want to bear fruit. And if I have to connect with people and I have to change to do that, I'm going to do that. God is very serious about me bearing fruit. God is very serious about you bearing fruit. The question is, am I serious about bearing fruit? And what will I do about that? Maybe I should land this. He's coming back soon. And when he comes back, he's going to look for fruit. He's going to look what he gave me, what he invested in me. How well did I use that? How well did I multiply that? So that he can be glorified. And I've got a choice. Am I going to believe the enemy's lies? Or am I going to believe the truth today? So maybe close your eyes.